Hi, my name is Julie. I'm the teen librarian at the Central Branch Library. And today I am going to tell you or show you how to make this little possum feltie. So she has a little prehensile tail with a pipe cleaner in it, so you can bend it and hang her somewhere. And she also has a little pouch for you to store maybe a little cash, hide a little kitty in there. All right, let's get started. So if you picked up your packet with your supplies and instructions, you will have a set of instructions, a paper pattern, some felt in gray, white, pink, and black, some thread in gray and white, a little packet here with a needle and at least 2 pens. You'll also have a pipe cleaner, a pack of tacky glue, and 2 Q-tips. What you'll need to provide is a ballpoint pen, blue actually works great, and a pair of scissors. For your first step, grab your pattern, grab your pair of scissors, and you can cut out your patterns. So once you have your patterns for the gray and the white cut out, it's going to be a little tight squeeze on the gray and the white felt. So here's how you want to lay out that before you start tracing. And you can play with this one and turn it around. It'll fit multiple ways. So the tail, little hint, if you can line up one of those straight edges with a long, nice straight edge, you don't have to make that extra cut right there. And you can just trace it like that. So once you have your gray and white pieces traced onto your felt, go ahead and cut them out. So once you have your gray and white pieces cut, and as you can see, I still have the little blue lines on it, I'm going to flip. So this one, I'm going to show you how to stack them up. So this, you're going to flip the side piece over here so that the blue lines are facing each other and they won't be as visible. The other one has a little blue line there. We're going to flip it over like that. And then the head is going to go like that. And you can set that aside for now. So grab your pipe cleaner. So first we're going to start with the tail. So pipe cleaner and the tail piece. So first off, this is too long, so we're going to fold it in half. So bring the 2 ends together. You can crease that. This is going to go in the tip of your tail right here. So, and I don't like these pointy pieces, so I'm actually going to bend them down so you can kind of bend them around your finger a little bit and then just bend them in. And then we're going to take the whole thing and just twist it. All right, and so that's the inner workings of your tail. All right, so for the tail piece, you're going to need your needle and your white threads. You can unwrap the whole thing off of the card and go ahead and thread your needle. Go ahead, tie a knot in the long piece. I'm wrapping it around my finger and then just pulling the needle through. So you're going to take your tail piece. So if you have any blue, you're going to fold the blue, from your pen, you're going to fold it in half and you keep that blue side in so it's not as obvious. So basically, if you take these, you want this to make a nice point. So you take these 2 edges here on kind of like the bottom of this little triangle and fold them together. And this is all going to be folded together as well. But we're going to start with the tip. Okay. And I want to hide my knot. So I can literally, I'm just going to go in, start kind of from the inside here, just for this first stitch. And I'm going to pull it through. Okay, so you have 2 options. You can trim that little edge, or I'm going to just turn it under and tuck it there so I can stitch it in and it won't be hanging out. So this is a fairly easy stitch. So I got it going through the side. I'm going to come through this side here, and I'm going to go through both pieces and kind of get pretty close to the tip. It's not going to be a perfect tip, but you kind of don't notice when you're done. All right. Okay, once you get to that point where it just goes into kind of a straight rectangle, right after that triangle on the end kind of ends, I'm going to do one more stitch, and then we're going to stick the inner workings of our tail in, that nice white pipe cleaner. All right, so you grab that pipe cleaner, so I have the bent end pieces here. I don't want those on the tip of my tail because that's where we're going to bend it. You're going to take the other, that little, right, that midpoint where we bent it in half, and we're going to kind of just stick it in there. You don't have to shove it all the way down. You can see this, it's not in this, it's in about right there. And you're going to continue to stitch all the way up. Well, almost all the way up. So you're basically going to stitch it all the way to cover all of the pipe cleaner. And once you covered that, you're going to leave this little end unstitched. All right, so once you're just about covered up that pipe cleaner with your stitches, I'm going to show you how to hide your knot. So I'm going to go back in. Let's see, I'm going to come around from the other side like I was going to go through, but I'm not going to go through this top side here. I'm going to go just through this bottom piece so we can kind of hide the stitch, or the knot rather. So you pull it all the way through, and then just like I tied the knot before, take my needle through. And here's where you can kind of use your needle. You can take it off the thread at this point if you want. This might be a little hard to see, but I'm going to put the needle through that knot before I tighten it up. And I'm going to pull it as close into that tail as I can. Don't worry if it's not way down there like mine. You can tuck it in and we'll sew over it. All right, so once you've knotted your thread, you can grab your scissors and go ahead and trim it. All right, so you're gonna grab your gray pieces right here, and you have them all stacked up, basically kind of how you want them. You can set the face aside because we're actually not gonna sew that on. All right, so we have it like this. We know how it goes. We're gonna lift off all of the side pieces in the head. And we're going to, you can use one of these pens. This can be rather helpful. So on the inside where we want the tail, actually I can do it this way. So the stitches kind of show underneath, or you can do it this way. I'm going to do it this way, so it from the front you don't see the stitches as much, but it's going to curve, so it really doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and, so you see how I'm going right above where it separates? You don't really feel where the end of that pipe cleaner is, and you kind of want that right outside, so you're not sewing through it. So put that like right along with the edge. Once you have that where you want it, use this pen and you can hold it in place. All right. Now you're going to grab your gray thread. All right, so knot the end just like you did before. And so when you have a longer piece, it's just easier to tangle. So just be careful, go slow in the beginning, and it won't be too bad. All right, so to attach the tail to the back body, so this is the inside of the back body, this is what you're gonna see, and we pin that tail down. I just wanna tack it in place just once. So I'm gonna just do a little X. Go down here. I'm going to start from the inside so it hides the knot. Okay, you're going to come on the other side, and I'm going to do just a little X. So it doesn't have to make a perfect X. You're just tacking this in place. So you want to tie another knot. Same way you did before, wrap it around your finger and then push your needle through, just like when you tie your shoes. And then trim. Then I'm going to go ahead and trim this one as well. Okay, so once you have your tail tacked on to the back of the body, you can pull out that pin and put it aside. So we had that body stacked up. I'm going to move the head and I'm going to start to stack it up here again. So I'm going to put this piece first. It actually doesn't matter which one of these pieces go first. You just want them to be lined up. And then I'm going to use those pins to pin this in place. It is kind of thick to get that pin through, but it'll help to hold it in place and you're not having to hold so many layers. Okay, so for the top, I want to put the head back on. I'm going to put the face aside. Again, we're going to glue that piece. So again, it's going to be quite a few layers that you're going to go through here. So if you put the pin sideways like that, it might skew your edges, and we're looking for these edges. That's why I went up and down. The way we want to sew this, we're going to sew all along the edges for the body, and for the head, we're going to want to sew just right about here around the top, maybe to about here, because you want to be able to lift up the head like on this one. So the head is just sewn up here, but the body is sewn all around the edges. Okay, so I'm going to start, and let's knot our thread. Okay, so this is pretty thick thread going through, which means that knot will hold, but this is going to be a number of layers that you're going to go through. If you look up here, you're going to be going through 4 layers. Down here, you're going through 4 layers too. And so it's going to be tough around those little edges right there, the top and the bottom. So it's going to be a little slow going, but we're going to start here on the side. So to start, I'm going to go through just the back. So I'm going to lift up these layers because I want to hide that knot. So I'm not going to sew the head here. I'm going to put that first stitch in. And I'm going to move this head out of the way. Okay, so you can just wrap around and do that kind of wrap around stitch like we did before. If you want to do this fancier stitch, when you get about here, you're going to put your needle through that loop and tighten it up that way. And it gives you kind of a cool stitch, like almost along the edge. Yeah, so I'm keeping coming from the top down. Try to keep your stitches fairly even if you can. It makes it prettier. You can get that nice loop and stitch it through. Okay, so once you get right up to the tail, you're going to change your stitch a little bit. So even if you're doing the wraparound stitch or this fancy stitch, you're going to basically go up and down through this tail until you get to the other side, and then you're going to continue with whatever stitch you did, if you did the fancy one or just did the kind of wrap around. So this is going through a couple of layers. If one of your relatives has a little thimble that can actually help you out with this. So I'm just going to literally go up and down. So since I was stitching from the top to the bottom, I'm going to end the stitch on the top so that I can continue with this fancy stitch over here. And then continue with that stitch. So I'm going to continue this up until about here. Okay, so once you get to this edge right here, it's about right here where the head hits the edge. You want to kind of seamlessly add it in. So I'm going to do one more stitch. And then I'm going to add the head in. So I'm going to continue this stitch just through that extra layer with the head in there, and just make sure you're getting through all those layers. It'll become a little more difficult because it's thick. Okay, so when you get to the ear, you're going to do basically the same thing that you did down here by the tail. You're just going to go in and out, up and down kind of stitch. And you'll do the same thing for the other ear, and in between you'll just continue whatever stitch you were doing along the edges. Okay, so when you get to that last stitch, you're just going to tie off a knot like you normally do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back down from the head and just through the head so I can hide that knot underneath there and it's not sticking out. All right, so once you have your possum all sewn together, you're going to lay on your pieces like this. I would lay them out first. Make sure they fit and they look right, and you got your little thumbs going in the different directions. So a little thing to say about the hands and the feet. You can leave them like this and glue them on and not even cut the little fingertips, or I give you a little example. If you prefer to look at this, I would use a black pen, but I did this. You can put 3 little lines in that, or on that big part of the hand where your knuckles would be right there, and you can cut a little bit if you want. You do have a little extra pink, so if you want to try one out and see how it goes, you'll be able to do another one if it messes up. If you want, though, you could just do this in black ink and then put that like that as a little hand as well. So that choice is up to you. So you're going to have a little tub of tacky glue. So this is just tacky glue, and you're going to have a Q-tip. So you can do whichever you'd like on that. Take a little bit of the tacky glue. And you're just going to glue it down. So when you're done and the glue is all dry, you can curl her little tail and then hang her up.